Good day, everybody, and welcome to today's latest episode on my YouTube video series. And today we're going to do the topic property ownership cost in Malaysia explained. So in this video, it's going to be a basics video for those of you who first time want to consider buying property in Malaysia and you want to find out what are the costs involved in owning property in Malaysia, right? In the end, later we also cover some transaction costs because I'm going to split ownership costs that you have to pay once you own and costs you have to pay when you have to buy, which is a transaction cost. Okay, just to be clear about the two. So if you like this kind of videos, please save, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel, right? And you can please share this video with your friends and family who are interested to buy property in Malaysia and they want to know about this topic, which I think is an interesting topic that we regularly get questions about. Okay, so the first and most common ownership cost that you will run into is the maintenance fees, right? So if you buy a condo in Malaysia or any strata property in Malaysia, so basically high-rise condo, it will also apply to strata landed. If you buy strata landed, right, you have to pay something called the maintenance fees. Now this is very similar to the maintenance fees or the management fees that you pay in Singapore when you own a Singapore condo lah. So every month you pay a fee, right, to the building manager. The building manager is a professional company licensed, right, in Malaysia. So usually there are companies like Knight Frank, Savills, WTW, CBRE, these kind of companies, right, similar in Singapore, who operate and manage condo buildings. So this is the maintenance fee you pay to them. Now in Malaysia, we always express this as cents per square feet, right? So for example, 30 cents ringgit per square feet. So 1,000 square feet is 300 ringgit lah. So in Malaysia, we normally do that. In Singapore, we don't. Singapore normally we go by share value. Actually, in Malaysia also we go by share value lah. But we in practice it's normally expressed in per square feet. So it's 33 cents per square feet, 40 cents per square feet. So in Malaysia, most condos are in the range of 30 to 50 cents per square feet lah, right? Roughly, right? So in many cases, a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom condo, you're going to be paying anywhere from 300 to 500 ringgit per month, and this will cover your car park and whatever, everything. So in Malaysia, we normally bill monthly. Singapore, we usually bill it quarterly, but in Malaysia, we bill it monthly. Okay, so this maintenance fee is for what, right? Standard lah. You pay for your security, pay for your cleaning, your landscaping, you pay for your common area swimming pool, your gym, right? Maintenance of all these items. You pay for the common area, electricity, water, things like that. Okay, you just pay for your managing agent's fee, right? So all this covers in your maintenance fees. And similarly, as per Singapore, you also have to pay the sinking fund. Now, sinking fund is 10% of your maintenance fees, again similar to Singapore. So sinking fund will be for your long-term maintenance, like 10 years repainting, 10 years leaf replacement, right? Major things that only do long-term ones. This is called sinking fund. So this also paid. So normally if you say 30 cents per square foot, you pay another 10 cents, which is 10%, which is 3 cents. So you pay 33 cents per square foot every month, for example. Okay, so like I said, in most condos in Malaysia, you're going to be paying anywhere from 300 to maybe 500 ringgit a month for maintenance fees. Okay, so this is standard. Again, very similar to a private condo in Singapore. Same. Okay, so in case you don't know, right, Malaysia and Singapore have very similar Strata Management Act rules, right? So same as Singapore, right? When you, if you're a condo owner, every year there is a annual general meeting, the AGM. So you go there, you vote, right? You vote for the members of the MC, the management committee. This can be minimum 3 people to as many as 21, I think, if I'm not wrong, right? So these are the owners who are in the management committee. They're all voluntary, they don't get paid ones, which is the so they are in the MC, right? They then appoint a building manager who will then manage the building, right? And they help the building manager to make decisions on behalf of all the owners. So in this sense, Strata Management Act in Singapore and Malaysia is almost the same, right? Very similar. So this is cost number 1. Maintenance fees, which is the cost that you will see the most often, right, including your sinking fund. So what if you are an individual title property owner, like for example, you own a landed, right? So landed properties are typically individual title. So individual title, technically, you don't need to pay maintenance fee, right? Because you individual title, there's no manager, you control everything yourself. But there are some cases where individual title landed, for example, the most obvious case would be like Horizon Hills, where individual title, right? You do pay a kind of service fee every month, similar to maintenance fees, right? Where you pay for your security and you pay for your common area stuff, right? But you are individual title, so how come you pay this? So you're actually paying to the developer, and the developer maintain these areas for you. So a bit of difference in terms of the structure, but not very different from how a strata maintenance fee concept works, right? So just in case to be clear to you, right, what does individual title property owners pay versus those who are in strata title property owners. Cost number 2 is what we call the assessment tax, right, or property tax. Now, property tax in Singapore, right, every year you pay once. So in Malaysia, we pay something called assessment tax, right, which is similar lah. It's the same concept. So assessment is paid to the city council, right? So in JB, this is usually MBJB or MBIP, right? The Majlis Bandaraya, right? The city council, right? Usually this is one of these two city councils, right? So you pay every 6 months. The bill comes every 6 months, usually in January and July, right? And how this is expressed, right, is as a percentage, right? So your in this case, usually 0.2% of your property valuation. So if your property is worth 1 million ringgit, right, 0.2% is 2,000 ringgit a year, right? So you pay 1,000 ringgit every 6 months, okay? And this is paid to the city council. So assessment and property tax is similar in that sense, right? So in Singapore, we have the calculation is different based on whether you own, stay, or whether you rent out. But in Malaysia, it doesn't matter. The rates are flat, right, based on the percentage I mentioned earlier. Whether you're Malaysian or Singaporean, right, or whoever, right, the rate is the same, right? They don't differentiate the property tax today. So property tax together with the before mentioned maintenance fees, these are probably the two biggest fees that you pay every year, right, as a property owner, the majority of the fees, right? So we move on to quit rent. Now you may have heard this term quit rent, right? And you may be wondering what is quit rent. So quit rent in direct translation, right, basically means land tax, a tax for the land. So in Malaysia, we not only have property tax, which is based on the door, the main door, we also have a land tax, which is based on your land size. So the bigger the land, the more land tax you pay. This means that if you are a condo owner, typically the quit rent that you pay is very small because many condos share the same amount of land. So a quit rent for a condo, right, you're most likely paying like 100 ringgit a year, right? Very small amount of money, right? Because you're divided by so many owners over a plot of land, right? The quit rent is higher, of course, if you own a landed property, right? If you own a landed property or a factory or a bungalow, then the quit rent you pay will be comparatively more. So basically, this is a land tax. Again, it's built once a year, right? By the Johor state government, right? They will bill you this tax. For condos, normally it will be billed to the building, then the building manager will then rebill, right? Divide and rebill to all the owners. The other cost that you will normally run into is fire insurance. Now, fire insurance is like what it mentions, is an insurance against fire. So in case there's a fire, the building burns down, right? The insurance company will pay for the repair cost. Now, fire insurance usually only covers the structure of the building, right? So in condo case, the structure, it will not cover the furniture inside, it will not cover the contents inside the house. In fact, fire insurance, technically speaking, don't even cover things like floor tiles, it don't cover things like your kitchen or your aircon, right? All this is outside the scope. It only covers the structure of the building, but it's better than nothing, right? People, you have some insurance compensation is better than zero, and fire insurance is actually mandatory in Malaysia high rise. So all condos by law have to buy a fire insurance, and typically the fire insurance is paid for by the building management because every year they have to renew, right? And then they will again rebill to all the owners who are in the condo. So basically what I mentioned above covers all the major ownership costs, right? So I repeat, right? Maintenance fees / sinking fund, right? Assessment tax, which is your property tax, right? Your quit rent, which is the land tax, and lastly is your fire insurance, right? If you are a property owner and you rent out your property, then you are also subject to income tax on your rental. So for non-residents, that means you don't live in Malaysia, or you're not a Malaysian, you don't live in Malaysia, the rental income tax is actually 30% per annum on the net rental income. So net rental income means you deduct your bank interest, maintenance fees, agent fees, renovation, repair costs. You deduct all those costs, so you can try to deduct the net amount you pay 30% on that. Okay, so that's if you rent out your property in Malaysia, then you are subject to rental income tax, right? If you are non-resident in Malaysia. Okay, moving on to transaction costs, right? What are the costs that you pay when you want to buy a property, right? So the or when you have some transfer situation happen. Now, the first thing that we call is called the MOT, right? Memorandum of Transfer, right? Or issuance of your strata title. Now, if this only happens, right, when you have a new condo, right? The condo has been built usually in the past less than 5 years, right? The building have to issue the strata title. Now in Malaysia, strata title issuance can be a different time from when you collect the keys. So if you bought a new condo, you collect keys this year in 2025, right? The strata title could only come out maybe next year or 2 years later, maybe as long as even 5 years later. So when the strata title come out, you have to pay the stamp duty for the strata title issuance. So like I said, in Malaysia we call this MOT. Now Malaysians pay roughly a tiered rate up to about 3% plus, right? Foreigners pay a 4% flat rate. Now some of you may have read the news that Malaysian government intends to raise the stamp duty for foreigners for this purchase, right, to 8%. We heard it was announced in the Malaysian budget recently. We are not sure what the details, right? We probably speculate based on the normal rules it will be effective 1st of January 2026 lah. But we don't have all the details yet as of the date of this video. It may go as high as 8%. So this stamp duty, right, you pay whenever there's a transfer, right? Whether you issue a new strata title, right, or you are buying from another owner, you have to pay this stamp duty. This stamp duty is similar to the buyer stamp duty in Singapore, right? Singapore also we pay about 3% plus stamp duty, right, excluding the ABSD in Singapore. So this is the same stamp duty that I'm talking about, right, whether it applies in the strata title issuance, the MOT, or if you are buying a property in Malaysia, you have to pay the stamp duty for it as well. The other transaction costs, if you are a foreigner buying property in Malaysia, is what we call the foreign levy. Now, the foreign levy, or what we call the state consent process, right, the foreigner state consent process, these terms might be used interchangeably. Basically, they mean the same thing. It's when a foreigner buys a property in Malaysia, you have to pay an additional tax, right? So this is similar to ABSD in Singapore. Singapore, we pay 60-65% ABSD, right, for foreigners. So in Malaysia, this for Johor, right, this levy is 3%, right? So if you buy a property above 1 million ringgit, you have to pay a 3% levy on the property purchase price. And this tax goes to the government, right? It doesn't go to the developer or the agent or whoever, right? So it get paid to the government, right? If you buy below 1 million ringgit, if it's a residential property, it's 30,000. If it's a service apartment, then it's 50,000 flat rate, right, for this foreign levy. Now, foreign levy in Malaysia is the fee you pay to get the government approval for a foreigner to buy the property lah. And this state consent approval usually gets approved, right, in like 90% of the chances. If you buy from a developer, usually get approved, right? Sometimes if you buy resale, it might not go through. Depends on the property, right? Some properties, governments are more careful not to sell to foreigner, right? But by and large, you will discuss all these things with your agent and the seller before you buy lah, so you know your chances of getting approval or not. In most cases, if you are buying above 1 million ringgit, then it's not a problem, right? The state consent will be approved. Do you have to pay agent fee to your agent if you are buying a property? Now, this is a similar rule as in Singapore. So the agent is typically paid by the seller, right? So the seller could be a developer, could be a private seller. So normally the agent fee is paid by the seller to the agent, right? But if you have an agent representing you, that means you have a buyer's agent, right? Then you may have to pay the buyer agent a commission as well. So in Singapore, or in Johor, this depends, right, whether this agent is a buyer's agent or not. You have to clarify with the agent early, right, whether this agent is taking commission from the seller or taking commission from you. So you as a buyer, you are clear on this upfront, right, so that you don't get any surprises along the way. You must remember that a property agent cannot represent both sides in any transaction. They can only represent one side, similar to Singapore. So I hope this video was useful to you, right? If you want to buy, sell, rent any property in Malaysia, in Johor, please contact me. My name is Ryan Khoo. You can find me on my WhatsApp, +65 8126 1626. More than happy to have a non-obligatory discussion with you on property buying in Malaysia, right? In case you are interested in other topics relating to Johor Bahru, retirement in Johor Bahru, or buying property in Johor Bahru, please check out all the other videos on my YouTube channel, right? I have a variety of topics that are of interest to you, especially if you're looking at JB right now. And if you do like our content, please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please like this video and share them with your family and friends, and hope to see you guys soon. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.